everyone, it's Cheryl Millett here, live at 5 on Mondays on Facebook regarding all things healthy and then some. And part of the healthy is the gratitude that people talk about. You might have seen my post with the beautiful fall colors and the trees regarding just how gratitude adds to our life, adds to our quilt, adds to our life every day. Anytime that we're in gratitude, it's like the stitch in the quilt, which is, if you've ever seen a quilt when it's done by hand, or even if it's not done by hand, there's many, many stitches in a quilt. And I see gratitude just like that. It is many, many, many different stitches that you just keep adding to this quilt. You just keep building up every time you're in gratitude. But I actually want to talk about some things that are kind of underlying that gratitude, or it's just another area that's important. But I want to put it in context with health. And I made so many notes this week because there was like several things. So I'm going to try and go through several things in these next 30 minutes. But hi Ivan, hi Yvette. So just conversations on many different things. One of the things is vaccines that kind of come up. I'll kind of bring that up because it's one of those heated topics. It really should be. When you're at a party, don't talk about sex, don't talk about politics, don't talk about vaccines. I mean, it's almost similar to that. And I know there's a third religion. That's the other one. So here, when they were bringing up the things like polio, and this is on the walk club, because I run a walk club on Sunday mornings all year round. And this topic comes up more from this one gentleman because he's so pro vaccines. I choose to be kind of like in the neutral position, but in that neutral position, I see what both sides are kind of doing, but I'm definitely choosing not to have them. But one of the things that they talk about here is that the vaccines, what do they do, what do they don't do, it doesn't matter. But the idea is that we caused everything. We caused the plague. So here's this vaccine that supposedly lowered the Black Plague or lowered that. Meanwhile, that was caused by us in the first place, right? That has to do with sanitary. Now, I'm actually going to put this out there because I think this is a very good point to see. And that is all diseases exist, right? So bacteria exists, all the germs exist. And some will say there are good and there are bad. It doesn't matter, they exist. When our system is not in integrity or not impeccable, when our health is actually, for whatever reason, compromised, it may be a choice of drinking too much alcohol, when you go away, and hence we can get sick. We can catch things can get the better of us. But there's two key things to understand here. One, we cause it. And two, they're not going anywhere. So somewhere in the middle is the ground where we can be healthy and we can we can go through the flu, build up our immune system. And see, the other thing about getting sick, which should be something that we're grateful for, whether it's diarrhea, whether it's vomiting, whether it is the wonderful thing of flu, is that, of course, you don't necessarily need to get all of, cold flu if you're strong enough. But if we do, it is an opportunity to actually expel things from the body. Now, in the case of diarrhea, you've eaten something, you want to expel it, you don't want to stop the diarrhea. And vomiting, same thing. Now, in the case of vomiting, good luck trying to stop that. Diarrhea, you can kind of work with some meds and do some things, eat some bananas, eat some cheese or whatever, and you can slow it down or stop it. But the idea is our body wants to get something out. It's a survival mechanism. We got to go with the flow. The fever for 3 days for when you catch a flu, touch wood, it's been a while, but the idea is when we catch those things, we allow our body to get stronger. And note, we realize that our body might not be strong enough, and that the mere fact that we indulged, or we, what do they call, burn the midnight candle, and we can affect the strength of our immune system, our ability to be strong against certain things that are floating around. Just because somebody has a cold and you kiss them doesn't mean you're going to get a cold. But that's the one thing. So I wanted to kind of bring that up, that whatever comes our way may be there to make us stronger. And also stresses and mental, of course, that has a play on our strength of our immune system. We have to both tap into physically what we're doing and also the mental aspect, because as they say, the top stressors that cause issues in the body are divorce, changing jobs, moving houses, those kind of things. And that surely does take a toll on both, on both sides. So the idea is to understand that when we make our bed, we have to live in it. That's key. And when we pick up our fork, and when we think about planning our day or a healthy lifestyle, we're looking at the things that we enjoy, the things that we can bring in one step at a time. And this is all common knowledge, I think, in most cases. We are different people and we tend to do things differently, but the idea is to look at things that you're going to enjoy and bring them into your lifestyle, and that's how we would build up our body. That's enough about that, because really we have to be more accountable, more responsible, and that thinking that vaccines are going to eradicate anything that exists in nature, it ain't going anywhere. And geez, I mean, there wasn't too long ago where people thought, we got to get rid of this bacteria, got to get rid of germs, we got to get all of that. Now they're saying eat dirt, for Christ's sakes, right? So it's really common sense. And that's why, Live at 5 is really about bringing common sense to many different areas within our day-to-day things, our thinking on different things, our health, different things like that. So that's really cool to actually think about what I just said, and just know that we're not going to get rid of anything, but we surely have more tools, more teachers. I think of teachers as tools than ever before. They teach us something, and in and of itself, we deliver tools. And we definitely want to be, we want to think of sanitary. Absolutely. You don't want to unthaw your meat for a day on the counter. That would be silly. But if you want to unthaw it, it's best to unthaw it in very cold water or ice water. And but check it, because it actually thaws out quite quickly. But not just to leave meat sitting on the counter to thaw out. Once it's thawed out and you're going to be using it later, just you throw it in the fridge. After it's been sitting in cold water and it's thawed out, then you put it in the fridge until you're ready to use it. So those are some of the things. And of course, you're cooking it on high heat, so that really helps. But for somebody like me who eats raw food, like raw eggs and raw smoked fish, and all the smoked stuff is all raw as well. I eat raw beef, raw seal meat. I mean, the idea is that raw is very nutritious, very nutritious. The fat, you don't denature it. And I think the change in taste when you cook things is not necessarily for the better. It's more clean tasting when it's actually raw. Although most of us will feel that we're going to catch something seriously, and we can. This is why the supporting the system and doing things properly, food safety, has to be bar none important when thinking of anything. But this brings me to the diet types. There is so much out there when it comes to diet types, and books that will tell you have to become a vegan, or you have to become a vegetarian. I won't name any books, but the idea is putting the fear into people to doing something that, in my opinion, is not necessarily the way to go. Some people, some cultures, that's how I will say it, thrive on vegetarianism. I think it's important to look at your culture. Look at the history. Look what you've been eating for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And I think that's a very, very important thing. When I did a lecture to a group of personal trainers, and they asked me to do a lecture on eating disorders because they wanted to be able to help those people with eating disorders. And that's a type of eating. We have to think a diet for those who have eating disorders. Very small amount of food. Of course, they don't have any weight to lose, but yet they think they're fat. It's very, very much out of the scope of personal trainers. I had to tell them so. Really, most of them don't know they have an issue going on. And in some cases with the vegan and the raw food, vegetarian, it's still same thing. We have to pay attention and come to our senses when things don't feel right, because I have heard from many people, raw food, vegan raw food. I'm not a raw food vegan. I'm raw food, and I surely do have cooked food. But I don't believe we have to do something 100% either. This whole thing about 100% or nothing doesn't have to exist. If somebody wants to have a little bit of cheese every, vegan, but they want to have a little bit of cheese every month, that is fine. I mean, as a result of doing the lecture on eating disorders, I remember being in a pet store. I don't know how we got on the topic. We maybe started talking about the hamster's diet, and then I went from there. But basically, one of them was vegan, one of them was vegetarian, and both of them had cravings. And I found out from a friend of mine who said she craved cheese and they were closet eaters. So how true are we to ourselves when we want something so bad? And see, the one person in the pet store actually said, so I said, okay, if you could have any food, what food would you have? And the one person said, well, I'd have Swiss chalet sauce. There's a number of people. I can even imagine what it tastes like, even though I haven't eaten it for decades, but I can imagine it. I can absolutely remember what it's all about. And I said, well, why don't you have it? And she says, because what will people think? What would people think if they saw me eating it or I ate it, and I have to tell them now that I ate it because whatever. And I said, oh my, I said, it doesn't even matter. Have it. Go have it on your own. You have nothing to hide. It's nobody else's business that you're doing that. And the other person who was vegan, that's right, she was vegan. And I had some come up with the thing about consuming raw milk. And when she realized we can get raw milk, she said, that's what I would like to have. I'd like to drink some raw milk. And part of this going to vegetarianism is because of boycotting the commercial farming. But we have so much good food and farmers that are raising animals so sustainably and ethically and organically in some cases, and on their natural diet for the most part. So we really don't have to avoid certain things and go whole hog. That's what I'll say. I love that phrase, whole hog. We don't have to go whole hog. And many times people will kind of comment here and there, and I will bring this whole issue up with, well, have it. I mean, who are people to judge what we're doing? They should be judging what they're doing, judging people. Anyway, so I did want to make sure I talked about diets because I think the idea really is to go to whole foods, more naturally raised foods, healthier food, organic food, even better eating habits, like just chewing our food better, making sure we have enough hydration. Like those things above the other things would probably be better. And again, it's small changes, but I just, I don't know. I feel sometimes for these people that just totally in a whole hog kind of thing are craving. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's really healthy myself personally. What else do I have to chat here about today? oh, this is the first time I'm talking about this. I think I might talk about other things here and there and bring them up. This is the first time I'm talking about this. Probably the first time, other than my husband, that I'm actually bringing this up. And I might have just mentioned it here and there, but here I go again. For several years, I've been observing what things happen and how things work with the pooping. And as crazy as this sounds, when we put things in our body that our body does not like, and I'm going to say alcohol as one of them, coffee is another, and surely there'll be other things. And of course, this is it. Doesn't matter. I mean, celiac disease is another thing. Allergies are another thing. But let's just say you add alcohol. You know, you're just drinking a few drinks. And so what I noticed is when I put, and I'm just going to use this word because, you know, don't get hung up on that I'm like bashing it or anything, but poison. So when we're consuming something that's toxic or poison to our system, our body wants to kick it out. And what I noticed over the years, when those such instances of energy, but it is a jolt from that tired, can't move, can't get out of bed, don't want to talk to you kind of scenario. So really coffee for a lot of people is get them going in the morning. Not energy-wise, but pooping-wise. Have your coffee, go for a poop. But what it's doing is it's stimulating the large colon, the intestine, and in doing that, stimulating the colon like that, it's actually not causing its natural peristaltic. So if you can imagine, I don't know if you know what peristaltic is. Peristaltic is, it's kind of like a contracting of muscles, like a tightening, and then a relaxing. And just, you know, keep doing this. When you do this, this is very peristaltic kind of movement. And this is how the intestines would push things through, it's just, specifically the colon. So as there's things that come in, which is just pure liquid that comes in first, and it gets pushed through, and the water and other things are kind of, water's reabsorbed, let's just say, and that which makes it more firm. And then you get to the end and you have this peristaltic movement when things are enough, where things are in position. And when you're relaxed, because that's important, even if I give people magnesium, it'll help their body relax. If you're all tight up, you know, you're going against allowing the peristaltic to happen, if that makes sense. So that, but the normal peristaltic movement is what you want to create in your life, because if you don't, you're going to rely on coffee and you're going to rely on stimulants. In some cases, the elderly rely on laxatives to the point where they can't even feel if they have to go. And that was my grandfather. He did not feel that he had to go. So I joke at my presentation, say I'm going to invest in Depends, because of all the coffee that people are drinking and the reliant on the coffee, but it doesn't create that natural movement through the colon to actually evacuate or eliminate the waste, you know, called poop. And that should make sense to any practitioner, anybody who knows anything about the digestive system, absolutely. And for those who have questions, you can put them down below. But it is a really important thing to consider. And I know some people will say, oh my Jesus, you know, coffee's good for you, isn't it? I kind of think that if you had a choice to consume something, a glass of water, and there's poison put into the water, and yes, we need water, but there's poison in the water. It's part of the glass of water, the water that you're going to drink. And you could logically say, well, the water will help me hydrate me, but the poison is going to cause me issues. And you wouldn't want to have it then. I think any person who has any common sense would say, well, I'm not going to drink it if the water's got poison in it. But water's good for you. So I want to kind of put that out there. That's how I just described thinking about coffee. And if you have any issues coming off of coffee, that should even tell you that there are things going on in the body that it's not helping. It's not a natural energy, natural hormonal balancing. If you get headaches, that has everything to do with dehydration, nervous system. It's all connected. It's all connected. So it's very important to think about things in a, anyway, for me, common sense, practical, logical as I am, and not buy into. It's not really about the business of coffee. I don't want to make it about that. Strip all of that away, strip the social part away, because the coffee places have tea, the coffee places have water, the coffee places now have, juices and smoothie, although they can raise your blood sugars. But we have alternatives anywhere we go if you want to still be social, which is a big improvement, I think, initially when there used to be coffee places out there. So that was one thing. And the second thing I wanted to talk about, or the third thing, the other thing, I was just speaking, via Facebook, because he's in India. I'll call him Yogi. I always call him Yogi anyway. He is a yogi on the basis of yoga. He's the one who taught me how, I still smile when I think of him sharing it, when he first came to North America, and he did spend a number of years here. I'm going to say a decade, but maybe about that. And he remembers coming over here and seeing how the Western world actually did yoga. So physical. It was like they were missing the point. Yoga, to him, was the breathing. And that's it's like an internal massage. It's flowing, breath. We know oxygen, our key nutrient, right? So, and I did do some, I think he taught a couple of times, this kind of small group, and then we've been keeping in touch. And it was funny, he sent me something about something, and it was a nice message about blessing and stuff. He sends jokes too, believe they've got a sense of humor too. Just because they're, monks, Buddhist monks, which is one of my neighbors here, or, yogi, they can have a sense of humor. They can even complain, to tell you the truth. And the idea was, I was thinking about this earlier this week, but actually last month I was thinking about it as I was walking to work, about kindness, and about how when we say gratitude, because this is exactly what I talked about first, gratitude can bring an internal peace. It's something you do with yourself, but you can say to people you're grateful for, if they're participating in something or for what they do. But kindness can come from the heart. It's bringing us from the head space, but it's joining the mind and heart. Let's not think of the mind separate from the heart, but that part of the mind and the heart, it's joining the two, where we actually show kindness, where we are kind. And I was thinking about being, just playing with it. I got time. It's an hour and 20 minutes walk. Being the ambassador of kindness. Not that I'm the only one, but that an ambassador of kindness. Okay, sounds great. So then I thought, well, why don't we have Kindness Day? But what are we all? And I started thinking about the days that we could have that would actually help us all be aware and raise awareness. And one of them was Earthling Days, because there's so much around humans today with the different cultures, the different countries, different religions, different whatever, that different way we look, but we don't look too different if we compare maybe all the different aliens on Star Trek, if you're familiar with any alien movies, I guess, or movies with aliens. We look very similar, but like an Earthling Day. And various days, one a month. And so I asked Yogi if he would like to be part of Earthling Day. And he says, well, when, how, what, where? And but the idea is I want to come up with some of these things that are going to bring us together. But I have to say, and I'll say this with tongue in cheek, if somebody is treating us poorly, or somebody is whatever acting out of hand, we got to put them in a place. This is what I enjoyed about reading about paganism, and because it's a community-driven thing, which if people get out of hand, is brought to the attention. And it's brought to the attention of the people. It's not that we want to put them in prison. No, that didn't really do that then. And the idea was it was brought to their attention so that they could see, they could understand, they could apologize, and we could work it out, move forward. Children do crazy things, and this is all about the forgiving and things like that. But it's interesting how today we would be so fearful of people that go to prison, fearful of criminals, fearful of talking to homeless, fearful of, and that's a little bit of exercise. I do like homeless. It would be a great exercise. Look at the people around you, or even could be on the news, because you probably don't have criminals that you're looking at every day. And there might be that they are, but you don't know it. But think about all the various people that you would look at for anything that they've been labeled with, or the way they look, or who you understand just based on the news. This person did this or that, and see if you have a fear of meeting them. See if you have a fear of looking at them or having a conversation with them. That's why I'm just going to leave you with that. Where are we sitting with these fears because of the things we've been conditioned to, and to relate to work together, to move forward, to make things better, right? So that's kind of where I want to go with that. I think that's really it for today. We're going on 30 minutes. Great to see Annette. Great to see Sam. Absolutely watch the beginning of the video today. There's about 3 or 4 things here that I spoke about, and each is it's an interesting topic to think about, to be aware of, to contemplate, to ponder, and those things. But if is there any questions, anyone? Any questions at all? Any comments? Oh, got a dog that's about ready to bark. Anything at all, please. Any comments? Anything that you liked? Anything that you may have learned? Anything at all? Because when we kind of come up with the things that we like, or that resonate, or we can add to it, we're all learning, we're all growing. This is then we're doing it for each other, right? So we're coming together here, even though physically we're not coming together. These days we can use this kind of technology to actually bring up good points or valid points, or how we feel, or how we like something, or add to it. And I think that just adds to the whole topics that are being discussed here, or not discussed. I guess I'm sharing on it. But that's it for this lovely fall day. I'm trying to think of all the very topics, but we talked about diets and eating disorders and the type of diets. We definitely talked about free will and understanding bacteria, germs, those kind of things, and where they actually come from. Us. So we got to look at us when it comes to how things are unfolding, taking accountability and responsibility for our health. That way, Earthling Day. I feel like I should speak to it in alien language when I say it. Earthlings, like I'm remembering a cartoon from the past. But needless to say, humor, playfulness, bringing the child within each of us, because there is a child, there is that playful, there is that feeling good when we're laughing, feeling good, we're smiling, we get entertained entertained in a good way, not because we're beating up on somebody, but entertained for see the humor in things. Curiosity, adventure, learning something, the aha moments, like all of these things bring joy and play and children. And when was the last time you went to a children's playground and gone down a slide? Not that I'm saying you have to do that, but think about the things. When have you? And there's no reason why we can't. In fact, my walking group, which would have been age 6, 50s, 40s, 60s, 70s probably. I remember going into a playground once, and of course they're following the leader, and I wanted to see how they're paying attention. And I actually went into a playground and started going up the slide and went down. Some followed, some didn't follow. but nonetheless, it was me having fun and playing and seeing where people were. And people had a good laugh, and they wouldn't have done it otherwise. And, you know, some can't, some do, some won't, some whatever. So the idea is, you know, we just have to bring some play in our life. And so that's the other piece of homework. Otherwise, have a wonderful rest of the week. Have best of health, and here for if you need. And yeah, I'll just put that out there because it's something I've been working on a lot lately too. If you know anybody who wants to go on a fun trip to Ireland, very organized, but organized with a small group, 16 people, and we're almost half there, but I still have room for about 9-10 people. And the idea is it's next June. But if anybody's ever been interested in Ireland, so it's very reasonably priced out. We have a dedicated tour director, but she's guiding. So we're not on a big bus, we're on a small bus. We're going places where the big tour buses don't go, but we also get in those moderate hikes and walks to see the landscaping, the breathtaking views. Next year versus this year and last year, we're actually going to take a ferry out to an island on one of the Ireland's islands and actually stay overnight. And that's where we'll get to see the seals and the puffins. So for those who like wildlife, besides seeing the sheep, which we do there, and the cows, you actually be able to see the puffins and the seals as well. So a lot of fun. So if you know anybody, please share. I'll put a link on my Facebook page or some information too as well that you can share. But it's a great trip. We come together, we have some fun, but we also have our own downtime and those things too as well. So I'd appreciate that very, very much if you can think of anybody, just try and think of one person, even if it's 2 people, and get it out there. Then the year after that, it's Newfoundland, and that's going to be a lot of fun. Actually, there's a lot of similarities between Ireland and Newfoundland, and cultic Irish backgrounds. So it's very good and breathtaking views and lots of walking. Maybe not so much the weather is different on the other side, but puffins. And in the case of Newfoundland would be the whales, the icebergs, and then there's other things that we see in Ireland. So there's a lot of ancient sites in Ireland, so many older than the Egyptian pyramids. So that's kind of really cool. So we kind of step on that, step on the ancient history of things as well as step on the land. And I appreciate that very much. So thank you for that. But best of health. Any questions whatsoever, or if you enjoyed this video, please share it and like it. And I think mostly what I would do is nothing to do with me. It's everything to do with educating people and giving them information so we could all live healthy and vibrantly and having fun and being more at peace in our day, because that's really which calms down the nervous system and avoids I'm not going to say the root cause of disease, because I've talked about this before, but actually the thing that happens before inflammation, all the irritation in the body, increased toxicity and tension in the body. So we want to actually be in a calmer place, and peace, that's what I think. Calmer, less health, problems out there, probably less cancer, less diabetes, less